This channel isn't about hype or getting attention. It's about truth, the kind that's earned in pain. My name is Jensen. I've been through some things, things I didn't think I'd survive. I lost my son Jett. That moment shattered everything I thought I knew about strength, faith, and purpose. But it also forged something new inside myself. This this is my fight to fight back. This is Mormon-fu. If you've ever felt like you're drowning in darkness, you're not alone. So welcome to the channel. Again, my name's Jeff. I am glad to be here. I'm glad to have hopefully a good group of people showing up and watching. Hope everyone liked my little handwritten note. Content warning. I felt that was the most genuine way to just express that it when it comes to spirituality and it comes to emotions, oftentimes what you get back is something that's very raw, very personal, very intimate, and sometimes that conversation is just not appropriate for for children under 18. It's that simple. Now, I'm not saying some 18-year-olds and younger are very mature and they've been through a lot of themselves, but I just want to make sure that the viewers understand that I take this very serious. This is a big deal for me. Um, it's taken me 30 years to get here to this point where I felt comfortable enough and had enough experiences under my belt, good and bad, that I felt that I could offer. Um, I don't know. I hate to use the word counsel or but I could offer perspective from someone who's gone through it that maybe someone listening or watching may find beneficial. It may help them get through the most painful parts of whatever they're going through. And that's Mormon-fu. I mean, it's like any martial art. It's a discipline. It's something that has to be practiced. Repetition. Doing practicing just you look at the different katas and forms that you learn in martial arts. And they're all an extension of an expression of the teachings that whatever that sifu or sensei learned from their sifu or sensei or grandmaster etc. That's what Mormon-fu is. It is the only difference is our grandmaster is Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father. That they provided a means, and I've just taken that means and labeled it basically Mormon-fu, that will provide an unseen strength, clarity, and hope, that putting your trust in someone who has been through it all suffered for the sins of the world, has the ability to heal anyone's heart. I didn't believe it. I really didn't. When I lost my son Jett, that it changed me a lot. I kind of have a life of pre-Jett and post-Jett. Before Jett passed away, I was much more easygoing, non-confrontational. I one sec. Kyle, your drink's right there. I'm recording right now, so give me a sec. That was my son Kai. He wasn't around when Jet passed away. And that was almost 25 years ago. So I understand loss. I think too. I don't think there's much. I don't think there's a greater loss that a husband, wife, family can go through than losing a child. And not to say that there aren't things out there that are just as bad. We live in a cruel world, and we need to be prepared. We need to have the necessary tools and you know coping mechanisms so that we can deal with all the surprises that we run into on a day-to-day basis. We don't know how we're going to be tempted, or you know I'm trying to get business to do something we don't want to do, try to whatever, compromise our integrity or our honesty or our truth, or you know you need to stick to your guns. It's tough. It's really, it takes effort to be bad, and it takes even more effort to be good. And good guys finish last. I know that. We live in a world that praises and worships, you know the, the rough guy, the tough guy, the I don't know, you know you watch some of these social media things on YouTube, and they talk about just so many different things that just it is very personal, and it's very important, especially at a young age, that you develop the proper, maybe proper is not the right word. You develop a set of standards and principles that you live by no matter what. You have to stick to your guns. You have to plant your feet down and say, no, I'm not, and not be afraid, to upset people. You have just as much right to believe what you believe as someone has a right to ask you to call them a certain name, or insist that they're something they're not. And you have to validate their delusion, you know. Well, you have the right to sit there and demand that people accept your truth, and truth, funny thing, is always very hard to swallow. That's how you know it's truth. People will always fight it because as soon as you recognize truth, you have to change. So, of course, all these identity politics we have going on, you know, gender identity issues, political issues, as soon as anybody on either side, you know, admits, truth, or, following a less than truthful narrative, then things can get really difficult really fast. So you have standards. Mormon-fu, it creates that discipline that we need as men and women in this world to stay true to the things that we believe in, no matter the consequence. That's the key. We don't have the luxury of having selective righteousness. That's crazy. I learned a long time ago that I view life as black and white. It's either right or it's wrong. Only justification allows gray to enter the equation. People will say, "Well, Jeff, well, what about this or what about that?" Yeah, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, wouldas. As soon as someone says that, it's like you're just trying to justify your behavior. Men don't justify their behavior. Men act, period. And we need good men because good men act appropriately. Good men have standards. Good men understand their nature. They understand their strength, they understand their weakness, and they know how to get things done to the benefit of all those around them. When you don't have people or surround yourself with people that have that same level of integrity, well, then you have somewhat of a systemic collapse of morals. And one of the worst things that I think people are seeing happening now, okay, is we finally have come to a point in our society where immorality has become a civil right, and we praise people for that. Beyond me, it's really sickening, when you think about it. We praise people because they're immoral. We call them brave, or you have some tagline to show that, oh, it must be going through you. You're so brave. You're so special. You're so awesome that you did that. And no, you should never ever be ashamed to tell someone the truth. People need to hear the truth, whether they like it or not. You know, and I think because like when my son passed away, you don't want to believe it. It's a hard thing to swallow. And Lucifer knows that. I mean, don't you think in your ear says, Jeff, where were you, man? Why'd you let your son die? Of course he did. Constantly. He still does every once in a while. You hear it. I've learned, techniques to try to drown it out. But, and not only that, but I've also realized that I had nothing to do with it. So he can talk and talk and talk all he wants, but I have nothing to do with it. He died, he passed away, and that's that. If you ever had loss, put a big L, down in the comments. Um, I'd love to hear stories. I think there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot worse than what I have. And I'm not an expert, but I'll tell you one thing that I am really good at. In fact, I would say I'm exceptional at it. Of all the different things that have happened in my life, and I apologize if I get a little emotional, but it's expressing emotion and showing emotion is never a sign of weakness. Only real men, only men that understand how emotions work and how emotions affect other people, realize that emotions are powerful, very powerful. The pitch in your speech, the breaking of your voice, those are all extremely impactful. You're communicating loss or something that's very dear to your heart. You can't help but have some physical response. And so we share that with each other, and we bleed together, we cry together, we mourn together, we sob together, we bawl our eyes out together, we laugh together, we smile together, we hold hands together, we hug together. I mean, that's the whole, that is Mormon-fu in a nutshell. Now listen, I know it says Mormon, I get it, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I have been, I was born into the church. My parents are, devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I believe with all my heart. But this isn't about me teaching you about Mormons. I'm not here to teach. It's just a word that came together because I am LDS, I am Mormon, and I love Kung Fu, and it made sense to me. Now you people, anybody down there, anybody in the list listening can sit there and say, oh, this or that. Yeah, but go ahead. I mean, that says to me more about you than you realize. It is. I tell you that I am not here to preach. I am not here to convert. I'm not here to share the gospel. Then, as far as I'm concerned, I've covered my bases, and that's that. End of discussion. We don't need to talk about it anymore, unless I cross that line, and then you can bring it up. If not, then I don't want to hear about it, because the focus is how do we develop spiritual katas and forms, techniques, kicks, punches, throws, that protect us, strengthen us, give us a defense mechanism that could shield us from the fiery darts of the adversary, that could make Lucifer's, temptations, feel like tiny little raindrops, on a cool summer morning. It's like water on a duck's back. It just rolls right off. It has no effect. That's where we want to get at. And it takes practice. You have to sometimes go through crap to get to that point where you refine. You're kind of the refiner's fire. You refine yourself to a point where you are no longer a big thing of carbon, and you're a diamond now. It may be rough, maybe, but you are hardened, and you're going to have some scars. Your spirit's going to be scarred. Your emotions, your emotional stability is going to be scarred, and it's going to be have cracks and probably broken a few times. But at those breaks, when they heal, they get stronger. Just like a human bone, when it breaks, it's always stronger at the break when it heals. And so we need, to focus on that and to realize that we are designed, and I mean this and want to say this very clearly. We are designed after a perfect being, which means we are created to succeed. And let me just say it again. We are designed for success. And I define success as this. You may define it, other ways, but I'll tell you my way is better than your way. And I'll tell you why. Most people define success, and it usually has something to do with money or wealth or power. And none of those have anything to do with success. Success is an eternal principle. It's not fleeting. It's not an earthly principle. It's an infinite. It's not a finite. Success is no more than this: rising each time you fall. That is being successful. when you've overcome, the serpent, Lucifer, Satan, whatever you learn to call him or recognize him as, you are successful. You've risen. He beat you down, he beat you up, he bruised you, he hurt you, he made you bleed, and yet you still got up and you move forward. Let me just show something here. I can't really kind of backwards, but this is a book I just wrote, Hand to Hand Combat with Lucifer, the Mormon-fu's Disciples Combat Codex. It's 120 pages, and it describes and it's my life from 8 years old to 16. It ends in my battle with Lucifer. It's metaphorical. It's designed for entertainment, but the stories, the things that I go through and relate to everyone who's reading, are actual events that actually happen in my life. For instance, my son Jett passing away. And there's other things that happen that are in there, and we'll discuss those. We'll discuss about some of the things, and we'll read from the book. I'll read from the book and give my personal insights of things, and maybe it will. You don't know who you're going to help. Excuse me. Sometimes you just have to have faith that you're going on the right path. You're saying the right things, and someone may not even realize they're being helped till maybe tomorrow. Maybe they wake up and they have an epiphany, like, wow, that makes sense. And then, they do something about it. Anyway, I wanted to read something, when it talks about success, because I think Rocky Balboa says it the best. Okay. In fact, this is probably I think, is one of the greatest lines in all of movie history. And this is in Rocky Five. This is when Rocky Balboa is outside his diner. His son just came to visit him and he wants to talk to him. And he's concerned, that, Rocky is going into this huge fight. And because of that, there may be backlash and maybe there'll be some splash damage that will, roll over onto him, his son. And he doesn't want that. And so he's asking his dad not to fight. And then, he gives this, amazing speech. And I'm only going to read part of it, but if you get a chance, you should look up the whole speech. It's pretty amazing. Definitely one of those speeches that was inspired to write and put into a movie. But he's talking about life now. Okay. He just talked about how he used to hold his son, up in the palm of his hand and hold him up. And he was just, Rocky was just so inspired and just, just holding this life. I think every parent remembers, that time, the first time you see, your baby coming out of your wife and being born. I mean, is there any greater miracle than the birth of a child? I mean, it is stunning. It's miraculous. This is what Rocky says. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. What a great, I mean, isn't that everything? The bruising, the bumps, anyway, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you guys, anybody that showed up and is listening. You know, if you like what you hear, if you want to be that, the next disciple of Mormon-fu, and we can take this journey together and we can learn together and we can learn from each other, hit that subscribe button. If you want to learn more before you start, you can, go on Amazon and you can, look at, I got two books on there, volume one and two of Hand to Hand Combat with Lucifer. And you can, check those out and maybe get some insight on who I am. But I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I finally got the courage to do this. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next time. It won't be too far away, too long. You have to wait, and we'll be putting out another video, and we'll go from there. Thanks again. Peace.